All right, fifth graders, today in reading, you are going to be close reading poetry. Okay, we're going to be working together with Star of David, and then you're going to be doing this on your own using the poem I Am a Star. So the steps are listed in your lesson. On your first read, you are going to number the stanzas. This particular poem is not sectioned out in stanzas, however, your independent reading one is. So I'll show you how to number those when we're finished with this one. And then you're going to jot down your reactions or connections to the text in the margins. After you do your first reading, you're going to think to yourself, what is this poem mostly about? Okay. So for the first time, I'm just going to read it straight through, and then I'm going to go back and jot in my reactions. So we have, you can be oriented by it, but in 6 different ways. It makes some joyful, some hateful, but it is blue. It is cause for a nation to rise, but from the start they've fallen. It is a people and a person, but a shape. It has a name, though it represents many, associated with 1 syllable, from a country with 3. The argued shape, which represents a religion, a battle, a race, a war, a life, a star, a Jew. David. Okay, so now I'm going to go back and I'm going to think about my reactions to this poem. Now, obviously we know from the title that they are referencing the Star of David. And the poem was kind of telling me what this star represents. So that kind of jumps down already to the part of what is the poem mostly about. So I'm going to jot that before I forget. I'm going to say mostly about. And it is what the Star of David represents. And so my reactions to this is that this one little star, this symbol, represents so many different things. So I'm going to put reaction. Star represents so many things. Okay. All right, so then your second step is identify figurative language, such as idioms, similes, metaphors, and then to identify what is their literal meaning. This particular poem does not happen to have any in it, right? It doesn't have any synonyms, or not synonyms, similes. It does not have any metaphors. And it does not have any idioms. Remember, idioms are like raining cats and dogs. Okay, so it certainly doesn't have any of those. So then if I take a look at my third step, it was with the use of figurative language in mind, what is the overall tone of the passage? Which words and phrases best reveal this tone? Now, even though we didn't identify any figurative language within this poem itself, there is definitely a tone that the author is representing. Okay, and remember, tone indicates the writer or the author's mood, voice, and attitude towards a subject. Okay, so there is definitely a tone within this poem. Tones are usually written as adjectives because they are describing how the author was feeling. So I'm going to use possibly proud. Let's see, what else kind of jumps out? Because it does represent so many different things, I'm going to use joyful. I believe the author was joyful. And also sad at times. You know, here they've said, but from the start, they've fallen. So I think this one shows sadness. Okay, they even say joyful in here. They've overcome this battle. Same thing with the war, right? So they would be proud of that. Possibly joyful for who they are. Not letting anything pull them down. Okay? So then as I kind of noted off to the side some of the things that, or some of the lines or phrases that made me come up with these tones. Okay? So that's what you guys are going to do for your close read. Now, you are going to do this independently with the poem I Am a Star. Now, remember I told you a couple minutes ago that step 1 says number the stanzas. Stanzas are the lines that are clustered together within a poem, okay? So this is stanza 1, this is stanza 2, this is stanza 3, and this is stanza 4, all right? So when you go ahead and print this one out for you to work with today, that is how you will number your stanzas. All right, and you'll be doing the same steps. You'll read it. You're going to jot your reactions and connections within the margins. You are going to think, what is this poem mostly about? And record that. Identify any figurative language that might be present within this poem. Once you've identified that figurative language, determine what is the literal meaning. What do they actually mean when they use those phrases? Okay, and then the third step is using that figurative language, write the overall tone of the passage, and then identify which words or phrases best reveal that tone. Okay, now after you have read this poem, you do have a journal response to do. Your journal response is, how have these two poems, I Am a Star and Star of David, changed your thinking? Okay, so I want you to respond to that in your journal today as well.